Fa la 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 la, the Yuletide Tales. Come along and enjoy.
So we're going to start off with Ded Moroz, is how it's roughly pronounced. This is primarily a Russian Christmas character. Basically, he's very similar to Saint Nicholas, Father Christmas, or Santa Claus, but his roots are in Slavic mythology. And he also uniquely, it's not necessarily started out as a Christmas character, but more was just a mythological creature. They referred to him in certain Eastern sort of countries there, Eastern European countries, I should say, Slavic mythology, as a demon. Now, the term demon did not have the same meaning as what we have it today. It was more in like pagan mythology. And it wasn't even necessarily an evil thing. It was just like a snow spirit almost, because the Ded Moroz is basically translated as Grandfather Frost. There's also some that it sort of more loosely translates as Father Frost, but they were more winter characters than anything. And eventually, over time, like I guess it was more towards as Christmas became very popular, towards the end of the Russian Empire with Tsar Nicholas. In that period, probably 70 or 80 years, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol probably had quite an influence, because that's when Christmas really started to change. That's when he started to become this Christmas character. Now, once the Soviet Union started, Christmas was disallowed, very much like in Cuba. They did not allow the celebration of Christmas, those types of Christian traditions. Now, once the Russian Federation started in 1991, Christmas was back and allowed again. They did allow these characters, though, that we're going to talk about, for instance, like Ded Moroz, and also his granddaughter, the Snow Maiden, who we will talk about here in a little bit as well. They sort of allowed them to be involved with the celebration of the New Year and those types of things. And he sort of plays very much the same type of role as I said before, like the Santa Claus, Father Christmas, St. Nicholas characters. He wears a heel-length fur coat in red or blue, a semi-round fur hat, and Valenki on his feet, which I'm not really sure what that is. He has a very long white beard, and he walks around with a long magic stick, as you're seeing in the pictures here. And they say he often rides a troika. He is often depicted bringing presents to well-mannered children and often delivering them in person in the days of December and secretly under the New Year tree overnight on New Year's Eve. The residence of Ded Moroz is in Russia and is considered to be the town, which I am not even going to attempt, as it's Veliki Ushtugug, with a bunch of these different names, like Snegurochka. That's the Snow Maiden. I had to go into like the pronunciation type thing, because wow. These are some pretty impressive words. But in the Eastern Slavic cultures, he's accompanied by this Snegurochka. In some cases, she's referred to as his granddaughter, and in some cases as his daughter. And we'll talk about her and some of the unique things about her, where she came from, because she's been in a number of different popular fairy tales, fairy tale tellings that individuals not from Russia put together fairy books and added some of the different individual tales with her, because there's a whole slew of tales with her as well. We're not going to go into Ded Moroz in each of the individual countries, Eastern European countries, because each one is very similar, but yet the names are slightly different. And like I said, they'll have different translations between Grandfather Frost, like in Russian, or Father Frost. And like I said, he's considered, he's a kind snow spirit who bestows the gifts upon people, more so on New Year's Eve than on Christmas Eve. So just some of the differences there. But overall, another one of these cool Christmas characters. So let's go on to some of the other characters. So the second Christmas character in Russian lore that we're going to talk about is a character known as Snegurochka. And that is pretty much how you pronounce it. Sort of translates to the Snow Maiden. She also has some other translations to like Snow Sweetie. And we'll talk about a couple of the other ones. It depends on the tradition and the folklore. Sort of like Ded Moroz, she wasn't originally a Christmas character. She was more of a snow spirit type character, and eventually transitioned in the later days of the Russian Empire, like we talked about with Ded Moroz. She turned into sort of his helper, daughter, granddaughter. So she sort of comes along with that Christmas tradition. But has no apparent roots in traditional Slavic mythology and customs. She only made it her first appearance in Russian folklore in the 19th century. So she's not as old of a character as Ded Moroz. Since the mid-20th century, under Soviet period, Snegurochka has also been depicted as the granddaughter and helper of Ded Moroz during New Year parties for children. Because that was sort of the thing, is that they made it, they didn't celebrate Christmas anymore, or weren't allowed to during that Soviet Union period, but they were allowed to then transition them into New Year's parties, which, you know, that's when Ded Moroz is supposed to deliver his presents and all that. Some of they have a couple different folk tales. One of them is a shorter version of Snegurochka, is Snegurochka, where she's a girl made of snow. And this was published in 1869, and where he basically mentions, almost this one might have come, possibly this particular tale came from Germany. A childish Russian peasants, Ivan and Maria, made a snow doll which came to life. It was also later included in another book in 1882. She grows up quickly, and a group of girls invite her for a walk in the woods, after which they make a small fire and take turns leaping over it. Now, in some variants, this is on St. John's Day, and a St. John's Day tradition. When Snegurochka her turn comes, she starts to jump but only gets halfway before evaporating into a small cloud. Now that version is also included, it's called Snowflake in Andrew Lang's The Pink Fairy book, which is quite popular. It was put together in 1897. Now in another story, she's the daughter of the Spring the Beauty and Ded Moroz, and yearns for companionship of mortal humans. She grows to love a shepherd named Lel, but her heart is unable to know love. Her mother takes pity and gives her this ability, but as soon as she falls in love, her heart warms and she melts. Now that version of the story was made into a play called The Snow Maiden, and it had music by Tchaikovsky in 1873. They had a ballet that also involved this character. Has been made into films, so it's pretty cool character that she is, and there's a lot of different traditions and stuff like that involve her, and they sort of come together as you see in the picture there. They work together in tandem, and she ordinarily is in like silver blue robes and a furry cap and that or she'll sometimes have a snowflake-like crown. But this is another one of those, same type of attributes, usually very kind, take care of children, and they deliver their presents instead of like Christmas Eve, but on New Year's Eve instead, because they're more half Christmas, half New Year's type celebration characters. But these are some pretty cool characters, and never had heard of them before, and it was fun researching them and going on this journey with you and having another Yuletide Tales of some of these unique Christmas characters around the world. So as always, I want to say thank you for coming along, and we will see you all about town.